Hey now! Today we're going to take a look at The Builders from Asmodee Games. And yes, it comes in a tin, but that's fine. I don't mind small tins, okay? I mind big tins like the Forbidden Desert that I have no idea where to put it. It doesn't fit on anything else with my shelf, but I digress. The Builders, as you might imagine, is a game about building things, in this case to get victory points. This is a Euro-style game. You're trying to build different parts of a medieval city. In fact, the game is called The Builders, The Middle Ages, implicating that there may be more games coming out in the future in this line from different ages, periods or ages, or maybe expansions for this game. In any event, you're trying to get workers, use them to build parts of the city, and gain money that gets you put more workers to work and get more stuff that you can build, and then eventually get a lot of victory points. And it's a race to get to a certain cap of victory points. Whoever can do that first, you'll add up your points and see who's the winner. Sounds simple? Well, it is. But let's go ahead and take a brief overview of the game, then we're going to come back and I'll tell you what I think about it. Okay, let me give you a brief overview of The Builders, The Middle Ages. This is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players where your goal is to become the master builder of this medieval kingdom. You're going to do this by using your worker cards in order to build buildings and get money and victory points. Whenever someone gets 17 victory points from just the cards that they've built, then that triggers the end of the game. Everyone gets one final turn, and then you'll count up your points. Whoever has the most points is the winner. So at the start of the game, everyone is going to get one of these apprentice cards here. And to determine who goes first, they're going to get the first player marker, which is all this card is for. You're also going to get $10. You have 1s and you have 5s. Then you'll lay out the 2 decks of cards. You have the worker cards, which are the smaller ones. You'll put 5 of them. Both sides of the worker cards are actually the same, so it doesn't matter how you put them, but you'll put 5 of them out, leave the rest of the stack there. And then you're going to put out 5 of the building cards, which are these here. Now, these actually are different on each side, so you'll put these on the unconstructed side first. Once you have all that laid out, then you can start the game. Now, on your turn, you have 3 actions. And the things you can do with your actions are take a worker card. You'll take a worker card. It's very simple. Just put it into your cadre of workers. And the workers all provide a differing amount of resources. So if you don't have any little marks over here, then they don't provide any of that resource when you're putting them to work. But if they do have marks, that's how much they contribute towards building a building, and this is how much money you have to spend in order to put them to work. And that is another action as well. So taking a worker from the stock and putting it in front of you is an action, and then actually using it, putting it to work on a building that you already have is also going to cost you an action and money. Then you also have the ability to use an action to take an unconstructed building and put it in front of you. This doesn't mean that it's built, it just means that you basically have the blueprints for it, and now you can potentially use it. And anytime you take either a worker or a building, you'll replace it right away. Now, much like with the workers, you have resources here, but these are the resources you need in order to actually build it. So this is actually a very simple one. So all you need is 1 stone, and you need 2 of the tiles. So what you would do is you have this here, it takes an action just to grab it, and it takes an action to put someone to work, so you could put someone to work on it right away. Now you might not have the right symbols, but if you can do it, you'll spend the money, put them there, and then you'll line it up so that the symbols on the worker line up with the symbols there. And the more workers you put, you'll line them up so that just the resources they're providing show up. Whenever you can meet or beat the amount of resources you need on that particular building, it gets popped. You get to build it, which means you get to flip it over, and you get whatever it is worth. Now, up at the top of the card, it will tell you that anytime you see a crown, that's the amount of victory points you have towards winning the game and ending the game. And this particular one happens to be a machine. Anytime you see a gear symbol and then it has resources on the built side, that means that this is a machine you can use towards building other buildings. It takes an action just like using a worker to put it onto a building you're trying to construct, but it doesn't cost you any money like it does a worker, so that's a good thing. And soon all your workers will be replaced by computers anyways. Anyways, so those are just some of the actions you can do. You're trying to build buildings to get victory points. Most of the buildings, instead of being machines, will actually give you money instead, which is good because you're going to use that towards getting more buildings, building more buildings, putting more workers to work. Now, I will mention that you have these 3 actions, and you can do those things, and you can also use your actions to get money. If you use your actions to get money, you can use 1 action to get $1, you can use 2 actions to get $3, and you can all 3 of your actions in 1 turn to get $6. It also is going to cost you extra actions if you're trying to put more than 1 worker to work on a single building at a time. So let's say that I have these 2 buildings out here, and I have a few workers. Let's just say this is theoretically the setup. And regardless of what the symbols are here, I'm not really paying attention to that. I'm trying to build these 2 things. Now, if I just want to put a worker on each building, that's fine. That's just going to cost me 1 action for each one because they're going to different buildings. But if I want to put 2 workers on the same building, then that extra worker on the same building in the same turn is going to cost me 2 more actions. So it'll be a total of 3 actions to put 2 workers on the same building in the same turn. And if I want to put a 3rd one over there, it's going to cost me 3 more actions for a total of 6. 6 actions to put 3 workers on the same building. Now you might say, wait a minute, I thought you could only get 3 actions. Well, you always have the option of buying more actions. For every $5 that you want to spend, you can get an extra action for the turn. You use it right, you spend the money, you get the extra action right then and there to use. So that's the way that you're going to do that. And remember that you might want to do that in some circumstances because this is a race. And the first person to get to 17 points is going to effectively end the game. You'll just finish out that round. Now, coins are worth something at the end of the game. For every 10 coins you have, you're going to get a victory point, and because the point total is so low, that can be pretty significant. But in any event, this is pretty much how the game is going to work. You're going to be getting workers to put towards getting buildings, building buildings, maybe making them the machines to help you out, getting money, using that money to put workers to work, trying to get an engine going in order to build buildings as fast as you can, as easily as you can, as efficiently as you can to save up your money, possibly convert that money into points at the end of the game, and trying to make some bigger buildings. So some of these are bigger than others. You've got ones like the windmill, which is sort of a mid-level building, which gets you some money but only 3 victory points. Whereas you have some very simple ones like the covered bridge, which is just going to get you $6 in a victory point, but it doesn't take much to build, so maybe it's worth it for you. And then you also have some pretty epic ones like the cathedral, which gets you $20 and 8 victory points, but it takes a lot of resources to build. And let me show you one more epic one. We have the abbey, which gives you 18 coins and 5 victory points. Not quite as tough to build. And the last one I'll show you is the aqueduct. And of course, it's always built on the other side. I should show you that artwork as well. So those are just some of the examples. It's a very light, very fast, very simple game. That's about it. So that's the Builders. Let's get to my final thoughts. Now, I wouldn't call the Builders a filler game, despite how small it is, because it's even with experienced players, if you're playing with all 4, it's going to take you 45 minutes to play it, most likely. But its strengths lie in the fact that it is very fast and very easy to learn, which is something that most fillers have in common with it. We had this game up and running the first time we played in, I mean, less than 10 minutes for sure. I mean, 5 minutes does not sound like an exaggeration as to how fast it took to get this game going. It's very, very simple mechanics, and the turns went very, very quickly after everyone got over a little bit of AP, not really knowing what they should do right at the beginning. Like a lot of Euro games that you sit down to play for the first time, it's kind of like where you have different options. You're like, what do I start with? What do I focus on? Once you get over that, things go very, very quickly. You regret the mistakes that you made in the first couple turns, but then you try to learn from them and see if you can recoup some of your mistakes and make more points by the end. And consequently, when you play a second or third game, it's going to get much better, much faster, and you're going to know more about what you should be doing. And that sounds like I'm describing like a heavier game as I'm saying it, but it's really not. It's very light, and I think that's the strength of it. I think that you do have important decisions to make. I think it is very strategic, and you're competing over things. You're trying to, you have decisions to make. I think that's a very important part of this, is you have multiple decisions to make. Do I go ahead and take that land now, wasting one of my very, very, very precious actions, even though I don't really need that now, but maybe my opponent does, maybe he or she needs it, and I want to keep it from them. Do I waste my action now? What do I do? Do I try to get some money now, or should I try and build one of these very simple, very cheap buildings out here that doesn't really give me much, but it does give me money? Is that a more efficient way to get money? Those are the kind of choices that you have to make. And for that reason, and because of the speed and the simplicity, I like this game. I think it's really cool. I think that it is a perfect gateway game. And in the sense that it does a lot of the things that a bigger, more grandiose Euro game does, but it does it faster and more efficiently. And it looks very attractive too. I like the art on all the cards. The art, I mean, it looks really, really good. The graphic design, the artwork, Really, really cool, really good card stock. And like I said, the tin is not bad. As long as it's a small tin, I can deal with it. Very transportable. Even the plastic coins are really neat. So it's kind of a mystery to me why this game has been out for, I guess it's been out for a while, but hasn't really been a hit, especially since it's so cheap. You could get this game for between $10 to $15, no joke, depending on where you shop, and it is totally worth it. It's not the greatest game ever, and if you want something heavier, if you're not into games that are this light, then it's certainly not going to change your mind about that type of game. But if you're trying to introduce people to games for the first time and get them to understand more complicated processes in some of the heavier Euro games, like a Stefan Feld game, this is maybe you shouldn't jump right from this into a Stefan Feld game, but it's definitely one of the steps along the path. It definitely works very, very well with different groups of people, different play experiences. I dig it for the cost and for what it is. It's definitely a pleasant surprise. That's the Builders from Asmodee. My name is Nick. This has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.